News this week that the US have been listening into conversations in EU offices in Washington, New York and Brussels. So Graham, should we be surprised?
Well, we shouldn't be surprised because the technology exists, and if it exists, it will be used. The amount of research of this type, if you like, done by commercial organizations to identify possible consumers for their products or services is huge, and the capacity for governments to spy on each other is even greater.
But they're our friends, aren't they? I mean, we could understand our enemies snooping on us, but our friends?
Well, this is the question that's being asked, and while I think we should not be surprised that it is happening because it can happen, there are a number of questions to be asked about on whose authority is it being done and for what purposes. And I expect there to be a rather robust exchange of views between the Europeans and the Americans over this. We have agreements between 7 European governments and the US government on exchange of information used for the purposes of combating terrorism or international crime. But the discovery that America has been snooping on the private conversations of senior European officials is clearly of a very different nature. And I'm not surprised that many members of Congress and of the House of Representatives themselves have come out and asked who authorized this, or whether the spooks are just not out of control.
Do you think this might affect the US-EU trade talks?
A number of people have suggested that it might, including François Hollande, the President of France. I hope it will not, because I believe that the gains that can be had on both sides from a deeper trade and investment relationship are huge. But of course, the climate that is created by this kind of snooping is distinctly damaging to the kind of trust that is needed for establishing deeper commercial ties, and therefore it is bound to have some impact.
Moving further into the issue with Prism, for instance, UK citizens and European citizens have found that they are being snooped on at a level which the US citizens are not. What do you say about this?
Well, I don't know the details of this. I can believe that may be the case. We did an inquiry here in the European Parliament 12 years ago when I was the chairman of the Justice and Home Affairs Committee into what was then the Echelon system, which was intercepting satellite but also telephone and other communications. The technology has moved on a lot from there, and where I think we need to be very careful with Prism, very concerned, is about the capacity to identify and target individuals. I personally have no difficulty with the interception randomly of communications for the fight against crime and the fight against terrorism, to protect our citizens. I think the state has a legitimate role in doing that, but it must do so strictly under the laws of the countries in which it does, strictly according to the various international laws that we have, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, the European Convention on Human Rights and so on, which require in the protection of privacy a sense of proportion to the kind of listening in that can go on. And also with strict parliamentary oversight. And the thing that worries me about Prism in the United Kingdom is that Tony Blair's Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act does not give Parliament sufficient oversight of what's going on.
Thank you very much. Thank you.